Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I am back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Spellbinders and Hero Arts. We all know that watercoloring, I do love, but it takes 100 years to watercolor florals. So we have a little quick kind of hack today that will help us get color down quicker so that we can get through the painting faster. I have had this is from Yana's collection, this Daffodils and Tulips. I have had it and I have not used it. So you can do this technique. I'm going to do it with a Better Press today and with stamps, but you can do it with either one of those. You could do it with a 3D embossing folder, as long as they all have stencils. That's the trick right there, is the stencils. So we'll get further into that in a minute. Here, I wanted this to have more of like a no line look. So I am using, I believe it's called Elephant. It's a light gray. And I am just tapping this on. I ink up my Better Press plates just like I do my stamps. Like you can see me tapping it on there. And then I've taped my paper in place, but it didn't stay. It didn't stay. Thankfully, it didn't mess up, but it also didn't stay. I think I need to get my mint tape is pretty low tack. I think I need to get something that has just a little more tack. You know what I'm saying? And then I went ahead and ran it through on my Better Press through my Platinum 6. And see here, that's where the paper fell off. But I get a great impression. I was really happy with the way that it looked. I love this image. I love large florals. And then this does have coordinating stencils. You can see down here in the bottom left-hand corner, they're numbered. So I'm just going to go ahead. I have these on my grip mat. And I am going to just run through these. I'm going to do a little bit of shading, not really very much at all. You don't have to do any at all. You could just put down a base of color. And so I've just picked out some distress inks. Whatever ink you use does not have to be distress inks. You just want to make sure that it is water-based, which means it will react with water. So the Better Press inks are solvent-based, like an archival ink is solvent-based, StazOn, all of those solvent-based. So that's not going to move when I add water to it. So it's going to keep the integrity of our image. But the watercolor portion, which is what the distress inks is going to become, that's the one that you want to make sure is a water-based ink or will move with water. Even pigment inks are still water-based. They just have pigments that are suspended, but they'll still react with water. But anywho, so then we're just going to go through and we're going to put down the color that we want to see the most of. I did this two different ways. I did this one, which is kind of like a more detailed, kind of cleaner version. And then the second one with the stamping is a little bit looser, a little bit kind of more hand painterly. So you can decide whichever one works for you. Before we get to, well, we're still doing the stenciling. Before we get too far involved, it is Memorial Day weekend, which means there are lots of sales going on. Spellbinders has a 30% up to 30% off sale, and Hero Arts has 25% off. Stamps, dies, stencils, tools, all of them. Both of those are good through May 26th. So I believe that's Tuesday. And there's so much in there. Here, what you see me doing is I originally put down all yellow and I was like, I want these tulips to be a different color. So you can totally do this as long as you go back in and go over a color that will match the one on the bottom. Like it won't make mud. So because my base was yellow, I went over with pink and that was fine. I had no issues. And then I just kept my greens the same throughout. But anyway, so a lot of people oftentimes ask those of us who are out here making free content, YouTube is free content, how they can best support us. And I'm not saying don't go out and buy something if you weren't going to buy it anyway, but if you are going to be doing shopping this weekend, which I would highly recommend because there's a bunch of sales, if you are going to be shopping anyway, if you would consider shopping through one of your favorite creators' links, that is immensely helpful to those of us who do this for a living in order to continue to produce free content. So I do have a craft deals page over on my blog. I will link it below that puts up all of the sales, which I hope is helpful to you guys. And so that will be there. Well, that's there all the time, but it will be there through the weekend and being updated pretty consistently. So now that we have all of the stenciling done, you don't have to add, like, each one of these is just kind of like a step up. And you don't have to, you can stop at any step that you want. I just want to emphasize that. And you don't even need these sets, whatever sets that you have, as long as it has a stencil, because the stencil is putting down the base layer of color. Oftentimes, all of us, when we're going down to sit down and create something, we can get a little scared, a little nervous when you have just a white piece of paper. So doing something like this takes kind of all the fear out of it, because then there's no like white paper syndrome. So here, all I'm doing is, this is just clean water, and I'm working in sections that are not next to each other. I'm working in sections that are kind of like spaced out in between, petals that aren't touching. And I am just taking clean water, and not a ton. I don't want it to be bubbled up. I just want there to be like a sheen on it. And you can see I'm kind of blotting it off on my paper towel if I have too much water. And then I'm just going in and swiping over the petals. And you can already see that it's moving the pigment around. And wherever I start kind of becomes like the lightest. So typically I try to start on the edges. And then this is all just water. This is going to give that watercolor look. I should mention, I am also working on watercolor paper. I find that with the Better Press especially, I like very much doing it on watercolor paper versus like the cotton panels. So anyway, so this pigment's just kind of like sitting on top, because a watercolor paper is coated. Well, it's not coated. It's meant to resist the paper, so the paper sits on top. Like, it doesn't absorb right in. It's a thicker paper. So then here, what you see me doing is, if you have a color that maybe you got too heavy-handed with, you can go in and wet the whole thing and then blot up some of the pigment with a clean piece of paper towel and blot up some of that color to make it a little bit lighter. And you can just continue to do that until you get up as much pigment as you would like. I just did it with the yellows because I was a little bit heavy-handed and I wanted to be able to add some shadows. I am going to end up bringing in 2 other colors to add my like my detailed work on my yellows. But so you could do that and just move it around with water and stop there. Or you could take it to the next step, which would be to add a little bit more shading, a little bit more traditional kind of watercolor with distress inks, though I only used, I think, like one or 2 colors, to add shadows where 2 things meet, where one object lays on top of the other, where like you have a gathering of things. So here, like how the flute of the daffodil is very kind of ruffled. So that's why you see me adding shadows there. And then right away I noticed, which is different from what I've seen with working, I guess, with like regular, not, what do we call it? No line coloring ink. This ink, like once I started to put the darker shades over that elephant that I had pressed in, it really grabbed that color and made those lines darker. And that helped incredibly to add to the whole look of the dimension. So I'm putting down the darkest color and then I'm kind of blending it out with the color that I ink blended with. So in this case, I'm adding the darkest parts with Crackling Campfire, and then I am kind of blending that out with either water or with the carved pumpkin. Here's where I'm going to do the yellow. I chose to do brushed corduroy and fossilized amber to give me a little bit more shading. So these are dry at this point. I should point that out. So I'm just laying down the pigment, which is in this case the brushed corduroy first, and then blending that out with the fossilized amber. If that is giving you like a hard edge and you don't love that, then just rinse off your brush, tap the base of the bristles onto your paper towel, and that will remove the excess moisture, and then go in and just blend it out kind of softly. So this worked really, really well. And because I had the base of the like the color already down, I didn't have to do the base layer, wait for it to dry or dry it myself, and then go back in. This was much faster to just get to the shading part of it. Here what you see me doing is the oranges were a little bit bright, and I wasn't really getting the dimension that I wanted with just how bright they were. So I'm mixing a little bit of orange with a little bit of blue. They're complementary colors. And then that way I can knock back that orange, and it's going to give me a desaturated orange to add my shading with. That has a lot to do with color theory. I have a whole class on color theory, an introduction and a comprehensive. The bundle for that is still on sale over on my website. If you're interested in that, I will link that below as well. But knowing color theory does help us to kind of use what we have a little bit more than relying on purchasing more colors or layering more. Like understanding how to layer colors helps you so you don't have to purchase as many colors, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So anywho, I am speeding this up because I am going to go through and continue to do what we've been doing. You guys know I try to leave in as much as possible. So just general kind of life. May is just beating our family down. We are so busy in May. It can't possibly just be us, because we're having Molly's having kind of some issues. She's my old lady. If you've never been here before, she's my old dog. She's 15 years old. She's a Boxer Mastiff mix, so that's really ancient for her breed. She's having some incontinence issues. She's had a UTI, on antibiotics, and she doesn't get up the stairs as well as she used to, and she's had some issues with her kidney. We've had to change her diet, so she's on special kidney food, and so now she has to wear diapers, and she can't necessarily come upstairs with me all the time because it's too difficult for her. She is on arthritis medication, as well as antibiotics for the urinary tract infection. So anyway, because sometimes I'm up here at night working and she can't be up here with me, I turn on my videos. I turn on my videos downstairs. Let's go back to the card. So here I'm adding the shading to the tulip, but remember how we had like the yellow underneath and then we put the pink? Well, and now I'm adding purple. Now purple and yellow are complementary colors, so normally that would make brown. But because pink is acting as that buffer and purple and yellow are complementary colors, I have the pink that's acting as a buffer, and then adding in the purple is actually making it just a little bit more desaturated. So it's allowing me to kind of deepen up those shadows. So I'm just layering those on to get more depth. And then I'm going to do the leaves. So if a leaf is behind, like this one is, I'm adding more shadows to that. Whereas like these two stems are meeting, one stem is behind and one stem is in front. Whatever stem is behind, that's the one you want to add shadow to. Whatever stem is in front, you want it to be the lighter color, which in that case, I didn't add anything to it. I just let it be the ink blending with just the water over top of it. And then the same thing down here where all of them are kind of meeting. I just kind of picked the ones that made sense to be in the background and added shadows. This is going to, again, give us more depth throughout all of these leaves that are gathering. And then here is where originally I was going to do a dye, and that just was not working the way that I wanted it to be working. So that is when I was like, oh, I should have done a stamp. That makes more sense. So this one is actually, this was a Hero Arts does, like with their My Monthly Hero. Oh, do you see my little girl's hands? She's helping me. They do a like bring back my kit or whatever where they vote on it. I don't know if they'll still do that now or not. But this is one of the ones that people voted to bring back because it was so good. So this is I think it's like Be Bold, and then the Color Layering Roses stencil. These are on sale. These are on super sale. I think the stencil is like $6 or something. But I have had this for a while. I really like this one, and it was a different look than the Better Press because this is a full background. So just to show you the different looks that you can get, this one we're going to be a little bit more loosey-goosey with. It's not going to be loose in the way that it means like that it's messy. Like we're not going to have a messy background. It's still going to be super tight because of the stenciling and how we're putting down the color. But the actual watercoloring is going to be a little bit looser. Whereas before I was trying very hard to make sure everything was very controlled and the whole painting was really tight. Here I'm not going to be like that so much. And then this one also has like 2 layers, like where you can add a detail layer to the roses and stuff. I used it, but truthfully, I don't even think you need to, because by the time we add the watercolor, that it doesn't even matter. So here's what we're starting with. And then we're doing the same thing. We're going in and we're adding the water. Now I know it's sped up, so it looks like I'm just crazy. I am doing 1 petal at a time, but I am not avoiding areas that are touching like I did the first time. So I'm doing 1 petal at a time. I'm just painting the water in there, and then I'm moving right next door and painting the water in there. You can definitely see from the top left to the bottom right. The bottom right is just ink blended. The top left is the one that has the water on it. There's definitely a different in looks. The one in the top left definitely looks more painterly. And this is a different kind of look than this super tight painting that we got with the first image. And then I'm just painting in my little bees here in the background. And then I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. So I went through everything. It was painted with water. The only thing I didn't do was blot up any pigment like I did before. I didn't do that with this one. And then I'm just going to go in and I'm going to start adding my shading. So for my yellows, I'm using that brushed corduroy and that fossilized amber. For my roses, I'm using the picked raspberry and wilted violet. For the other little flowers, I'm using the, crackling campfire and carved pumpkin. And again, I kept my greens all the same. So this could just go to show you, like, these cards have the same color scheme. They're both florals, 2 completely different looks, even with the same technique. Oh, for the little bee wings, I just did a little bit of that salty ocean, just a little bit of blue. And then I'm going to go through and do the same thing that we did before. I'm going to add more pigment in there where I want it to be the darkest, where they're kind of meeting the center of the flower, where one petal's laying on top of the other. For the leaves, I added the shading more at the base where it's joining the stem. For the longer, kind of smaller flowers, I just added a little bit of the darkest color kind of at the base of each layer of flower. So anyway, so I play these videos for Molly. That was the whole, what I was telling you about. And the other day I went down there to get something to drink, and it was a video of me. It was actually it was my mom. No, it was a Mother's Day card. I think it was a Mother's Day. Obviously I would have made it for my mother. Hello, it was a Mother's Day. But it was a video of me making this card in May, talking about how busy my life is in May. And y'all, nothing's changed because we have Mother's Day. We have Mother's Day, obviously, in May. So here's both of them with just the watercoloring. And I am a sucker for dimension. So you could totally leave these like this. I love them. I really do. But I did want to go back in and just kind of do what I could to create a little bit more dimension. And so I'm just going to use, I think I used 2 colors of colored pencils. Like I used one as the base and then one to blend it out. I'm not covering up my watercolor. I'm just adding the details of the colored pencils into the design. That's it. So again, this is something that you don't have to do at all. You can totally skip. Or if you're like, hey, I don't really love the detailed portion of the watercoloring, just do the base, like the stencil with the water for the watercoloring, and then add your details with the colored pencils. Lots of mixing and matching that you can do, whatever works for you. So anyway, there's just like, it's the end of school. It is my son's birthday, my sister's birthday, Mother's Day. I feel like there's something else that I'm Memorial Day, obviously. And then now it's like my grandmother passed on May 20th. My mom passed on May 17th. So those are like days also that we acknowledge as a family. The end of school is next week. That he'll be like last day of school. So any prep for that, prepping for his birthday party, which now he's 13, guys, he just turned 13. Can you even believe it? We have a teenager. He was so excited to sit in the front seat. Like, he was just, that made his day. I'm terrified because I just brought him home from the hospital. How could we possibly be 13 already? I don't even know how it happened. And I know every other mother in the entire world has said the exact same thing, but it is shocking when it happens to you. It really is. So anyway, so I have his birthday card coming up too, which is actually Spellbinders. His theme is guitars. That was the theme that he picked for his birthday, and I honestly didn't think we were going to get a theme, but we did. We finally settled on one. Something to note here: I am adding the darkest shading for my leaves with black. I'm the laziest crafter, I swear to you. These were colored pencils that were already in a bucket that was on the side of my desk. I did not get up and find new colored pencils. I used what I had, which is why it could have been better, color-wise, but it ended up being okay. I mean, like, I had enough to limp my way through. So I used black because I only had one green. So I used black as my darkest color and then blended out with my green. Listen, that just goes to show you, you truly do not need all of the supplies. Okay. You can make your way through. So for the bees, I added the little bit of browns and yellows. And then for the actual like the part that would be black, I did add black, but I didn't add it all the way. So I added it kind of like on the shadowed side and then like halfway up. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the other one. I added the little bit of black for my green. I'm not going to, you won't see as much of this one because first of all, there's a lot more of it. But second of all, you've already seen it once before. So I just went through, put down my darkest color, blended that out with the lighter color, and still let that watercolor shine. So everything still has like that painterly look. We're just adding more dimension with the colored pencils. I love the dimension that you can get in the little nooks and crannies. Please make sure your colored pencils are sharpened. It will make your life so much easier, I promise. See, there's me right there, pausing to sharpen them up. It's like a nice way to get in there and add dimension into your watercolor without having to do layers and layers of layers like you would with traditional watercolor. Because honestly, I just don't have the patience for that. And that's just me. So I'm always looking for like little shortcuts to make it a little bit faster. If you don't have colored pencils, you could use markers. You could use any other, like you could use oil pastels, you could use crayons, you could like whatever you have. But so I'm not going to show you each and every like rows. We're going to move it along. And then for this one here is like pink and orange. I just did a combination of the blending to let them meet. So now we're almost done. For the sentiment, I chose a bolder one, this Hello Friend, for the full background. This is so that it's going to be legible and to create some balance. This one, I wanted to use, these are also Yana's sentiments. I love Yana. She's so talented. These are Yana's sentiments. And so originally I chose the birthday one, which I really, really loved. But it was too large. And I did it in iris, and I did not love that. So I just set that one aside, and then I did it again, a smaller one. It says Sending a Bouquet of Hugs. I really love this font. And this one I did in Leaf, which is the green. I trimmed down the panels slightly so that they each had a green kind of frame. And then for the Hello Friend, I cut the shadow out of vellum. And that's going to help it to be more legible sitting on that kind of busier background. So I just, and the letters were cut out of like a darker purple. And then I just put them in the center. I meant to kind of put them off, like a little, the hello a little to the left and the friend a little to the right, but I didn't do that. And then by the time I glued it down, it was stuck. So there was no change in it. And then, of course, I added some shimmer to my flowers. Be gentle with this. You can reactivate your watercolors if you scrub it. And then that's both cards. So I hope that you are inspired to give this a try, this little time saver here. And don't forget to check out those Memorial Day sales. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.